everyone, welcome to Tech Talks. My name is Michael Bertoni and I'm the founder and CTO of Philly Tech. Really appreciate you joining my show and really excited to have my guest here, Fred Wilf. We are going to be talking today about the legal side of tech. And we're here again to help entrepreneurs, software companies, and technology companies deal with challenges and issues that they deal with every day. So it's great to have Fred here. Fred, thanks a lot for coming.
Mike, thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So Fred is a legal expert when it comes to tech, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And just wanted to understand, Fred, a little bit about your background and how you got into this field.
It goes all the way back to college. I was working as a computer programmer to help pay for college. And when I got to law school, started talking about software, technology, legal issues, and where they all combine. Figured I had a career, and I've been doing it ever since. So I've been practicing over 30 years now, soon to be 35 years actually. And about half of that has been in very large law firms, half that's been in small law firms. All of it has been technology issues, intellectual property issues across the board.
So what types of services do you provide, Fred, for your tech and software clients?
It depends upon what the client needs. So a small company, especially a startup, when you're talking about a startup, usually the company needs pretty much everything to get on its feet. Mm-hmm. That could be business issues, formation of the entity, investment, friends and family money, basically just getting on their feet, learning what they need to know about what they have to achieve, especially if they're creating new technology. How do you protect that? Mm-hmm. Who owns it? How do you license it? How do you share it? How do you get it to market? Mm-hmm. How do you protect it? All the different areas around intellectual property include patent, trademark, copyright, trade secret. For people in the semiconductor field, there's something called mask works. There's a lot there to do. And of course, for startups, a large part of the problem is there's more to do than there is money available for it. So part of what I do, especially with startups, is help them allocate and figure out where they need to spend the money for the best bang for the buck to get on their feet and then grow. Yeah. For larger companies, as they grow, whether it's a growing small company, whether it's a mid-market company, it depends upon what they need. For some companies, it's more technology-related services, helping them out with intellectual property, helping with the development, protection, licensing, distribution of the technology. For some companies that small or medium size, if they're having problems, I can help with that as well. Mm-hmm. Help with some business divorces, such as they are. And of course, as we know, sometimes it helps the company to fail in a good way, in a way that people aren't hurt too badly. Help them shut the company down, right, in a way that makes sense, and see if there's anybody out there who wants to buy that technology as the company shuts down.
Yeah, so I think the audience would be interested to understand, because I've been working with guys like you, and I've been working with you for a couple years.
Sure.
I think the audience would be interested to understand how you work with clients, right? Because you work, you're not necessarily full-time, right? So how do you typically engage? How do you work with your customers?
So that really depends upon the customer. And right now, besides the startups and the mid-market companies, I also have a couple of very large clients. It really depends upon what the needs are. For the smaller company, it might be a fair amount of time spent trying to identify what the company needs, mm-hmm, coming up with strategies, coming up with budgets, trying to implement that as they go forward, and then change it as they need to, as priorities change. For companies that are more stable, companies that are a little bit larger, it's usually on a project basis. So right now I charge, and the lawyers in my firm charge on 3 different processes. One is hourly rate, which is very well known, and it's gotten a lot of bad reviews for good reasons. Because in many ways, the problem with the hourly rate is that there's no, it's harder to manage.
Right.
You can give an estimate, but if I say if I'm going to go into a meeting, that meeting is 2 hours or 4 hours, I'm going to charge you for 2 hours or 4 hours, however long the meeting goes. And that's not the most efficient way to manage the legal process. A better way, when you can do it, is a fixed fee. So for example, if we're looking at a particular project, such as writing some new documents, such as acquiring some technology or selling off some technology, if we can do that with a fixed fee, then it's up to me to be efficient. It's up to my firm to be efficient. Charge a single fee. The business knows exactly what they're getting in terms of the services, how much you're paying for those services going in. And if there's a problem with the efficiency, that's on me, not on the business.
Yeah.
A third approach that we use is essentially fractional general counsel. The large companies can afford to have people in-house. They can be general counsel, they can be in-house counsel, staff counsel. There's a lot of different terms used for that. But for some large companies, they may need somebody else part-time, and we help out with that, a fractional person, essentially. Somebody who's available 1/4 to 1/2 time, say, as an example. That could be for a period of time that is limited, such as when an in-house attorney is on maternity or paternity leave, family leave. Or it could be a case where a growing company knows they have ongoing regular need for legal services,
Right.
but they don't need somebody full-time yet.
Right.
So for a couple of mid-market companies, I've used this fractional counsel approach, which we call IO counsel. We use that for somebody, charge them basically a flat rate and handle all the work that comes in. And they know going in, this is how much it's going to cost them.
Right. So I know you're working on some pretty big things. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and I know you have some pretty big goals, pretty big ambitions with some things you're building to as an adjunct to what you're doing currently. So tell the audience about that, because I think it's pretty exciting.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that I always found interesting when I was in the large firms, and one of this is still true, one of the great selling points of a big firm is that they have a great breadth and depth of resources. You go into a larger firm, they're going to have more people, they may have more offices, they have more people doing more things, because a great deal of law, fortunately or unfortunately, is heavily siloed. You have people who have particular expertise in particular areas in different geographic areas as well. And the small firms don't have that, but what they often do, and they've always had, is a network of other small firms. I'm trying to make that a little bit more visible. So in addition to my own website, which is wilftek.com, I formed a website called intangiblelaw.com for the Intangible Law Network. The Intangible Law Network is a network of small firms. So we have different attorneys doing different things with different expertise. Right now, we're still in startup phase, so we're currently at 8 law firms, hoping to grow that to 20 law firms within the next few months. And from there, we'll see how it goes. But the idea is that if you're a smaller business, you're not yet ready for a big firm, then it might make sense to instead go to Intangible Law Network, see what essentially is a menu of firms, do a search for what you need, find the attorneys that you need, or in some cases, you may need services from 2 or 3 different firms. What's interesting, again, is because so many different legal services are siloed with all these different expertise and experience, even a small company, a small business, may need 2, 3, or even 4 different law firms, depending upon what they're doing. That's especially true on the technology side. We may have the patent attorney. I might be doing general technology and intellectual property. I might do privacy, or if privacy is a large part of what they do, for example, in healthcare, if you have to comply with HIPAA, you need somebody who knows HIPAA very well. At that point, you want a privacy law firm that knows HIPAA backwards, forwards, and sideways. If you end up in litigation, which frankly you want to avoid if at all possible, but if you're in litigation, you want a litigator.
Right.
And that's a separate set of experiences, if you will, and expertise. And we have at least one litigator right now, one litigation firm on Intangible Law Network.
Great. So this has been a great chat, and come back because we are going to be talking about the major challenges to do with law, and Fred is going to be telling some great stories from his career for the past 35 years. So come on back.
Rowan College at Gloucester County, low cost, the #1 nursing program in all of New Jersey. More than 70 programs of study, including selective admissions. With record enrollment. A premier partnership with Rowan University. Transfer options with numerous universities. 4-year degree options on our campus. Rowan College at Gloucester County. Now you're thinking.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind-the-scenes footage, previews, and more.
Choosing Medicare coverage can be a very confusing and complicated process. Help is just a phone call away, 856-226-4800. As a licensed insurance agent, I'll assist you in making an informed and confident decision on a Medicare plan that meets your needs, lifestyle, and budget. Call me today for a free, no-obligation Medicare benefits consultation, 856-226-4800.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to create a better visitor experience.
Improve our workflow.
Attract new customers. That's when Fast Signs recommended Fleet Graphics.
Yeah, now business is rolling in. Get started at fastsigns.com.
What do I want to be when I grow up? Maybe a musician? A veterinarian? Maybe an equestrian? A mommy? Well, why not be all these things and more? Consider joining me, Dr. V, with friends and colleagues as we explore a wide range of topics together. V is for variety, here on RVN TV.
There you go, Richard. Oh! Is that too hard for you?
No. Is it too hard for you?
Woo! We're playing catch now. Oh, shit.
Welcome back to Tech Talks. I'm here again with my guest, Fred Wilf, and we're talking legal tech. And just wanted to close out on intangible law. So again, Fred has been in tech for many, many years, and he decided to come up with intangiblelaw.com. And Fred, where do you see that going? Like, so where do you really see that heading, and what are you looking for, maybe from the audience, maybe people can help, that type of thing? What are you looking for there?
Mostly I'm looking to have this be a place where small and medium-sized businesses can find attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for attorneys, you want it, and certainly there's some places online you can look now, but try to make it available and be able to search for exactly what you need, where you need it.
Right.
By jurisdiction, by area of practice, what have you. And each firm gets a full page, so it's not just 3 or 4 sentences, but rather a full page. And then, of course, each firm that's listed links back to its own website, its own other media, whether it's social media or otherwise. So the intent is to help the businesses and help the law firms find each other.
Great. So again, getting to challenges, right?
Yeah.
So when you're working with your customers, what are the major challenges that you see happening time and time again that they deal with?
Well, especially in technology, the technology itself is the prime challenge. I mean, in certain areas of law, the underlying business issues and the underlying field, if you will, may not change a whole lot from time to time. Technology, that's the opposite is true. Whether it's information technology, whether it's healthcare, whether it's life sciences, whether it's chemicals, I deal in all these fields, and the only constant is change. The other aspect that's critical on the legal side is that law it tends to be reactionary with a small r. That is to say, first something changes in the technology, something changes in the technology as it applies to business, for example. There's a new technology that becomes available, and people jump on and say, gee, let's work with this and see if we can do what we can do with it, see if we can build something with it.
Right.
And then it takes some time for the law to catch up. And that happens constantly, whether it's, I guess a more recent example that we've seen this issue is blockchain.
Right.
So new technology, tremendous promise, a fair amount of head scratching. Some people, and again, there's always wishful thinking around tech as well. Well, because this is so different, the law doesn't apply, and that's always wrong, unfortunately. The law just usually takes a while to catch up, understand what the technology is doing, and then see how it applies. With blockchain, for example, we're still trying to figure out how the securities laws will be changing. So if people are doing and selling things online that look like equity, that look like stock, that look like shares in a company, how is that changed by blockchain? Well, you can't say that because this is different, because this is new, the laws don't apply. That's almost always the wrong answer. Instead, the question is, how do we apply this? How do we understand the technology in the legal context? How do we make sure that nobody gets themselves in trouble, frankly?
Right.
And at the same time, for businesses that are working in this field, how can they build a business on the blockchain, knowing that some of the questions they need answered from the legal side aren't there yet?
Right.
A lot of times we're applying, I'm applying, and the other attorneys I'm working with are applying existing law, existing understanding, essentially the legal structures that we work with every day to these new issues and see how we can work with them. And also see the risks, because blockchain provides some new risks that we don't see in other technologies.
Right.
As a result, not the least of which is, I'll give you a quick example, even though it might seem like a silly question. In privacy law, which is also very much a developing area, very much a changing area. It's been around for decades, but it's been changing quite a lot just in the past few years, and will continue to change for the foreseeable future. In privacy law, there's an element of that says we need to be able to require that certain personal information be erased. This is sometimes called the right to be forgotten. It's really more like the right to be erased from a database.
Right.
Now, the whole point of blockchain, and well, not the whole point, but one of the attributes of a blockchain is that once it's in a blockchain, you can't delete it. You might be able to obscure it potentially, but what happens if you have some information that's personal information subject to privacy law, and you're using that using a database that's in the blockchain, and at some point the law requires you as a business to erase some information about an individual that you have in that database. What are you going to do about that?
Right.
We don't have an easy answer for that right now. And that's a technical question and it's a legal question.
Right.
And the legal requirements also change depending upon whether the individuals who are accessing that database or represented in that database are in one state in the US versus another state in the US versus a particular country in the European Union versus a country in the Pacific Rim,
Right.
or South America. Each of the laws are different. So we're addressing, and that's a large issue. Other issues that come up are existing laws as applied to newer and different issues that might arise. A good example of this. The Americans with Disabilities Act has been around since the 1980s. It's a wonderful statute. It helps people. It helps ensure that people with disabilities are able to maneuver and have a full life and not have any sort of physical or other barriers that might otherwise prevent them from being part of the community. More recently, we've seen that applied to websites. So on the technology side, I've been working with both website owners, especially those that have businesses that are commercial, where they invite people in and do business through the website, e-commerce sites as an example, as well as some developers and some consultants, to try to help understand what the law really says about how these websites need to be accessible to those with disabilities. And as an example of how the law sometimes changes and sometimes doesn't change, and how we try to make the best guess we can, at one point the Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice, had said, we are going to come up with some guidelines for this. And that seemed like a very good idea. And for a couple of years, they were talking about it internally. And then the U.S. Department of Justice said, you know what, we're not going to come up with these guidelines after all. So we have nothing from the regulators, or nothing from the Department of Justice telling us what these guidelines should look like to make a website accessible to people with disabilities. So instead, what the courts have been doing, understandably, looking for other guidance. And they found a set of guidelines created by World Wide Web Consortium. And you may have heard of it. It goes by several names, but technically it's WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. I think they're up to version 2.1 now, which states and provides a technical solution. And then the courts have been putting a legal solution around that, saying if a business owner attempts to comply with WCAG and responds to requests for help and requests for changes to their website so they can address particular disabilities, then we will not hold them. We will not hold them liable for money damages or other damages. However, if a website is used by a business to invite people in and to do business with them, and they don't make it accessible, and or worse, they get a request for help, please make this accessible for people with this particular disability, and they don't even try, well, then maybe that's a reason why a court will hold against them and hold them liable. Right. For money damages and otherwise. And just trying to put this into context, explain the issues, try to make the best, do the best we can with the current technology. It goes a long way to solve the problem, which is you want to comply with the law. Right. You want to help, you want to work with your customers. You want the business to thrive. You want to be compliant, and you want to make the world better in that regard.
Yeah, so a lot of this is, again, it kind of gets back to you don't know what you don't know, right? So your business that you have, you need a person on the tech side that understands the legal aspects of your business and can assist you when you're dealing with these things. A lot of times, entrepreneurs that we work with, they just don't know what they don't know, meaning that they don't understand necessarily how the legal impact of their technology will affect their business, right? Yep. So one thing that Fred wanted to talk about that we talked about earlier, if everybody knows, in our area in the Philadelphia region here, Josh Koppelman, right? He runs a company called First Round Capital, First Round. And back in the days of the tech boom, right, there was a company called Half.com, which I know was acquired by eBay. Right. But Fred has a great story about how he renamed a town. So Half.com renamed a town. So how did that work, Fred?
Well, first off, clarification, I can take no credit for the idea. Josh and his chief marketing officer, Mark Hughes. I think it was Mark who came up with the idea. Because back in the day, if you go back even further, you go back into, I think it was the 1940s or 1950s, there was a radio show, then TV show, game show called Truth or Consequences. And they made a deal with a small town in New Mexico to formally rename the town Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. So Mark must have remembered this and said, you know, here we are, this is during the dot-com boom, so this is circa 1999, 2000, thereabouts. And there are a lot of .coms. And Josh has done a marvelous job with his people of building half.com. But with all these .coms out there, how do you get your name out? How do you get yourself known as half.com if you're Josh and Mark?
Right.
And Mark said, well, let's rename a town. And we'll do it informally so that they're not stuck with a name if they don't like the name after all, but we'll keep it informal and we'll see if this works. So brilliant people, they came up with, I think, the first two versions of the contract. They found a town in Oregon called Halfway, Oregon, which was interested in talking to them. And they started talking with them, and I think Josh and Mark did the first two drafts of the contract. They brought me in somewhere around the third draft. And with the help of the town's attorney, who was actually in Idaho, we made a deal. And the best part about it, I think if you look on YouTube, the deal got out. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, it did exactly what Josh and Mark wanted, which is to create a lot of buzz.
Right.
And if you look on YouTube, you'll probably find Josh and Mark doing an uplink to Katie Couric on the Today Show, talking about how Halfway Oregon became half.com Oregon.
Right.
And it was remarkably successful, and half.com was remarkably successful as a result.
So this is amazing, guys. So you're actually using a lawyer to help you do marketing, right? So tons of ideas here, guys, that you can use legal services to benefit your tech business. So thanks a lot for coming to Tech Talks. We're wrapping up our show here. And come back every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. and come back next week. We'll see you there.